Well, let me just first of all welcome you. Let me unmute you first so you can talk. Hang on a second. There we go. Can you say something again, Will? Are you still there?
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, great. So let me just welcome you. I saw a little bit of your background. Looks like you spent some time as a stuntman, which is pretty cool. I've interviewed a couple of those over the years. I most recently got Kai Furneaux, who's from Louisiana, not Louisiana, she's Australian. I don't know how big the community is, if you guys know each other very well or know some of these people. There's another guy named Luke Hawk, who I ran into last year. Just had a really nice chat with him, but I don't know if those names sound familiar. But can you just give us a quick, 5-minute background info on your story? I know you've been in a lot of appeared in a lot of these recent movies and very popular movies. It's kind of reading through your list, so it's pretty kind of interesting stuff. But can you share that with us, and then maybe any other information you want to give us about your background?
Okay. Well, as far as the movies, I started a long time ago in doubling Sylvester Stallone in First Blood. I did the motorcycle chase through the streets there in Canada, and then moved on to the A-Team television show and did some big stunts on that. Unfortunately, about 4 years into my stunt career, I was doing a pretty easy stunt and wound up underneath a 10-ton truck with 25 guys in the back of it, and the dual rears went right over my chest, and it sounded like dried twigs snapping. I knew I was dead. Everyone there knew I was dead. I mean, everybody heard my body snapping like twigs, and I kept breathing, but I was paralyzed, but I couldn't, I couldn't move, but I knew I wasn't going to die because I kept breathing. I thought I was going to gurgle or, whatever, the ribs had gone through the lungs and all that. But that wasn't happening. And I finally looked up at the stunt coordinator. He was just crying over me with his hands over his face, just going, "Oh, God, no." And I said, "Alan, call an ambulance. I don't think I'm going to die." And he looked at me like he couldn't even believe I was talking. And sure enough, I didn't die. Here I am. But it messed me up bad for a long time. I still, suffer from, my neck, my back, my shoulder blade still has scar tissue on it. It actually took the big shoulder, is that called what's that big bone in the
Scapula?
The scapula. It snapped it right in half. The doctor said, "Wow, that was amazing." So anyways, those things, my elbow came outside my arm. But, they did heal up, and I obviously didn't do stunt work anymore for a long time. And I went into construction business and did well in that, but was very disillusioned in life. Started racing stock cars because, in my story, I didn't even talk about, I grew up racing motocross, and that was my love. And I took it to a very high level, but injuries, knees, shoulders, pretty much robbed me of that. And I had to quit after showing great promise, and I just couldn't do it anymore, not at that level. And so I thought, well, maybe I need to start racing again, which I did. And I raced stock cars at Saugus Speedway. They're closed now, but it used to be a local track here in California. And I did well. I won 2 track championships and moved on to the Southwest Tour. But it was just like a darkness came into my life at that time. My racing, I just wasn't winning again. I don't know, just everything seemed dark and bad. My older brother died from AIDS, and I was like, why am I even alive? And I went and saw this friend of mine. He had a really bad crack cocaine problem. And I was looking, I go, "Well, you're an idiot. Why are you smoking?" I said, "It's a loser drug. I mean, you gotta be a fool." And he was telling me why he hated life and I was drinking a lot at that time just because I was disillusioned and didn't know how to get out of it. And I was just, I don't know, I lost. And so all of a sudden I just said, "Give me that pipe." And he's like, "No, you don't want to do that." And I go, "No, come on." And I thought it would be like, I'd just quit. Well, guess what? That stuff sucked me in so bad, I lost everything. And I had a lot at that time. I had a successful construction company, and I lost everything and went for 10 years just fighting that addiction and alcohol. And the good news is, I didn't seem like good news at the time. I wound up sitting in a jail in Montana, facing 100 years in prison for drugs. And I started doing something I couldn't even believe I was doing. I started reading the Bible, and about 4 months into that, I got born again. And it's a very powerful thing that happened to me, because I went from never being able to say no to that drug to 16 years now clean and sober, and haven't had a drop of alcohol, and I drank my whole life. And so it's been pretty amazing. And now I get out of prison and get out of all my trouble. And my younger brother, meanwhile, has become one of the top stunt coordinators in Hollywood. He's doing all these big movies. He just got done doing Iron Man 1, and he was starting Iron Man 2. And he said, hey, he goes, and he wouldn't even talk to me. And I was always his hero growing up, because I was a champion motocrosser, and he wouldn't even talk to me through those years. I was such a disappointment to everybody. And he said, hey, I hear you're doing really well. And I said, yeah, better than ever. And he said, well, you want to come work on Iron Man 2? Are you allowed? And I said, well, let me talk to my PO&C. And he said, yeah, that'd be great. Went and worked on that. And then just all these big movies, Pirates of the Caribbean 5, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, The Lone Ranger, Captain America 2, and just kept going and going. And it's just been an amazing ride. God's restored so much of what I destroyed. And so now we get to the Meat RX, the carnivore experience. And do you want me to just go on into that, or do you want to ask some questions about it?
Let me just kind of just stay on the stunt stuff for a second here, because I'm just, you go through this experience where you get ran over. Everything, your body's crunched up, you may have been dead. How much sort of convincing or mental gymnastics did you have to do to get back out there and start going back into this world, knowing, firsthand how real the negative consequences could be? Was it hard for you to say, I'm going to get back out there and do stunts again?
No, because the good thing is I worked for my brother, and he knows my physical limitations. So at this point, I'm in my 50s. I'm 65 now, but when I came back in, I was about 55. I was 10 years ago. And he knew my physical limitations. I knew them. And so I really wasn't doing the kind of stunts I used to do. I don't know if you saw my book, but the back cover, I sent them a picture, a screenshot of that. And it shows me hitting the back of a car on the A-Team television show. There was cables on the front of the bike that got tight right at that instant. I jettisoned off the bike, and meanwhile, there's a bomb in the trunk of that car, a real bomb with dynamite, naphthalene, and gasoline that explodes, and I come out on fire. The length of the car, I cleared that whole thing, and my legs are on fire. No helmet, didn't have a scratch. I went, wow, that was awesome. And it was so dangerous and so crazy. But there I do that stunt, and then this easy stunt I almost get killed on. So you kind of learn, hey, you can get killed at any second. Matter of fact, I just lost a good friend, Marty Smith, a motocross racer. He was in a dune buggy the other day, and they just did a rollover, and the two people with them lived, didn't even get hurt, and he and his wife died. And so it's like, you just never know, it's a crazy thing, these dangerous stunts. But no, as far as mentally, it was more like, is this really what I should be doing? I've done this before, but I felt good about it. And so I went, and it's worked out great.
Yeah, just for perspective, how often do stunt people, in the movie industry, and I know that that's a big topic, and there's a lot of different movie sets and production companies, but how frequent do injuries or even small injuries occur versus, these deaths and horrific accidents? How often does that occur?
Yeah, if you're doing big, hard-hitting stunts, you're going to be banged up all the time, but not like hospital time or doctor time, but kind of like pro football players. It's just part of the game. You're going to be sore and a little bit banged up here and there. It's kind of hard to do a stair fall, even if you're padded up. You're going to get tweaked. Something's going to get bent. And And so the big injuries, very rare. But I will tell you this, there's good stunt coordinators and bad stunt coordinators, just like there's bad meat coaches or diet coaches and good ones, and if, like my brother, in the last 10 years, I don't think I've seen anyone seriously injured. One girl broke her foot, and we kept telling her, hey, quit landing straight-legged. We were dropping her with a winch for the stunt, and we kept saying, hey, my brother kept walking over, like, will you please listen? I'm telling you, you're going to get hurt. You've got to come down and use your knees, bend on impact. And unfortunately, she did break her leg. But for the amount of huge stunts, my brother's super safe because he's been hurt a lot in his career. And he understands and he respects it. And he has a lot of compassion and empathy for stunt performers. So he's super careful. Some of these guys, I think they're a little bit sadistic. So, you want to stay with a good, safe stunt coordinator. And so it just, it just goes with who you're working for, and also yourself. You've got to know your limitations. So many people, like a gymnast getting on a motor vehicle sometimes is like, they're so talented, but not in motorsports, and then a guy that's really good in motorsports, a lot of times they're pretty good at tumbling because you've learned to do that or you get hurt. When you're racing, you got to learn to, when you fall, you got to tuck and roll. But you need to know your limitations and be smart.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and I don't know if it's still this way, but I know there's been sort of this, I don't know why. I know because when it comes to these award ceremonies, they recognize the costume designers and the makeup people, but they still, is this true? It's true. They still don't recognize the stunt performers as a category.
Yeah, it's true. My brother always says, they have best foreign film short wardrobe person, but no, the guy that, is going to almost kill himself, doesn't get even a chance to be mentioned, and there's been a push for that for years. And, we'll see if, this world's a crazy place, the politics of even what you're doing and trying to do. And, it's kind of politics. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just, when I see some of the movies, and you see these guys running through the scenes and they're jumping off 30-foot buildings and landing and rolling and keep running. And I'm just like, man, as an orthopedic surgeon, I mean, I just know a lot of those guys get injured. And, these scenes that you guys make look fantastic and amazing. It's just like, well, I don't think anybody in the real world could actually do that. And so, I mean, it's how much work and effort goes into making like one of those, just what seems like, jumping from rooftop to rooftop? Is there like, a lot of time and effort and planning and putting all that stuff? I mean, it's because, in movies they're just running and jumping on trains and flipping over thing. And it's just like, they just, in their environment naturally. I know there's some parkour guys that are pretty impressive, but I mean, the average person's not doing that.
No, and even the best parkour people can't do some of the stuff that you see on the screen. So that's when the rigging comes in. And actually, I did more of the rigging towards the end because physically I'm not able to run. And falling, I might get hurt. So I did more of the rigging, and there's so much. It's so technical. It's a amazing art craft that there's good riggers and bad riggers too. A bad rigger can kill you. I mean, if you're trusting your life to this little, it's called tech. It's a line that's so strong, but it's so small. It's black, and they do make other colors, but normally we use black. And they're connected to high-speed winches and pulleys, and just all this thinking goes into it. And we actually rehearse it for months beforehand. Before the filming even starts, so that by the time the filming starts, because you don't want to be figuring it out on the day, because production days are so expensive. You better have it right then. You can't be figuring it out on the day. So we have it pretty much figured out, but it takes months to get all the stunts, the big ones, where these guys are doing stuff that's just ridiculous. You know, you cannot jump off a 100-foot building and bounce off a flagpole and live and land on the ground. It just doesn't work that way.
How often do either yourself or other stuntmen or women, basically say, no, I ain't doing that? Does that ever happen?
Not too often, not often enough, because you're under a lot of pressure. It's really hard to get in the stunt business and get a shot. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to do stuff they have no business doing. Now, when I worked on First Blood, the guy that was running it, he wasn't a motorcycle guy, but he was a great stunt coordinator. And he asked me to do this one jump off of a hill onto this bridge. Well, I looked at the bridge and I said, I think I would probably go through this bridge. It's so old and rotten. I go, it's going to be a hard landing. And then I got to looking at it a little more. He goes, well, what if we plywood it up and do this? I go, you know what, that motorcycle I'm riding, if I don't break it in half, I'm going to get hurt. No, forget that. And he goes, okay. Now, if I would have not been confident in my skills and in my whatever, my ability to stay as a stuntman, I might have done it. And, might have pulled it off, but I don't think so. I think that motorcycle would have broken in half because it wasn't a real good bike. The bikes we ride now, you could jump off something like that and it wouldn't be a big deal. The suspension's so amazing and there's a lot of it. That old 1982 Yamaha was like a piece of tin, and it was not made for that, and it wouldn't have worked out well. So there's a lot of that. So many people do get hurt or killed because they took something that they had no business doing.
Yeah, you've got this interesting background. You've beaten your body up, you've been smushed, and and in history of using drugs and other things, and kind of recovering from that. But so now, apparently you've kind of adopted this sort of meat-based diet. Tell us how that sort of evolved. What prompted that?
Okay, so around 2 years ago, almost 2 years, about a year and a half ago, I was working out so hard. I had this Bowflex Max trainer and was doing intervals on that thing, and I pushed it so hard that I started like graying out one day, and I almost felt like I was maybe gonna have a heart attack or something. And because I pushed it hard in training before, but this was different. It was kind of like, whoa, you need to cool it, man. You're pushing it too hard for. I think I was almost 64 at that time, and but I was working out so hard, but I just had this tub around my belly, and I was about 30 pounds overweight, and I just didn't feel strong or right. And so I'll never forget this. I was standing in my kitchen, and I was listening to this guy on YouTube, and he said, abs are made in the kitchen. And I just happened to be standing in my kitchen, and it just hit me like truth. And I went, I've been doing this all wrong. So I started searching out, and I found keto, and fully embraced that. And, I didn't even really have the keto flu. I just, I knew right away. I'll never forget this either. I went to Starbucks, and I always had this argument with the case that has all the sweet stuff in it and all their stuff before you order your coffee. And I would look at that and swear I wasn't going to get anything, but I had such a sugar addiction and carb addiction that I always lost that battle. And I would just buy that, okay, well, give me 2 of these and 3 of those. And then I'd get my coffee, and I'd say, well, I'll just work out harder, Well, after that conversation in the kitchen about abs are made, and, I knew I had to change. So, but what was really neat was the first time I went to Starbucks after I went keto, I looked at that and I went, I really don't need that. And I thought, wow, that was kind of an amazing moment, like freedom. I felt like I was set free. The same way I was set free through my spiritual experience with God on the drugs, I've been set free from the food addiction. And that was amazing. So I got my coffee with my heavy cream, and I went down the keto road, and I noticed that I was making all these keto desserts and this and that. And then one day I think somebody was talking about, awakening that lust. And I thought, you know what, this is really kind of a bad game I'm playing here. And about that time, I started seeing you and a few others. And I thought, you know what, I love steak. It's my favorite food. When I was doing construction, I would wake up and have steak and eggs. I would have cheeseburger for lunch and probably steak for dinner sometimes. And people go, yeah, kill yourself, And I'm like, oh yeah, I better eat some vegetables and do this and that. And so it was always almost forcing myself. Although I can eat anything, but why? So that's what I figured out as I morphed into the full carnivore. I noticed, and from listening to you and others, I realized I don't have to eat that stuff. I've been brainwashed my whole life. There's a lot of things we get brainwashed in, and that I had to eat certain things to be healthy. And I found out that diet was not healthy. And I started noticing amazing results. I lost 30 pounds so fast. I would like to say in 30 days, but it's probably more like 40, 45 days, I think. 30 pounds just gone. And what I had worked so hard that I almost killed myself working out too hard was gone without really that much effort. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I love this. So for the last year and a half, as I said, about probably 4 or 5, 6 months of keto. And then the last, it hasn't quite been a year yet, or actually it has been over a year of carnivore. And I've noticed so many improvements. I don't know if you want to ask me about anything up to this point, or let me continue on with the improvements.
No, keep going. Because a lot of people, they lose the weight. I'm just kind of wondering, obviously, I'm guessing you have aches and pains and joint issues and, type of stuff from all the years of being beat on. Did you see any improvements in those areas?
Yes, I have. I'm bone on bone in my knees, and I've had a couple of different doctors say, how do you walk on these things? It was funny. One of them said, you race motocross motorcycles on these knees? He said, when I see knees like this, usually somebody comes in on a walker and they live on a couch watching TV. They don't race motorcycles. And he said, so I'm going to say something I never believed I'd ever say. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep racing those motorcycles. And so I've noticed if I eat any sugar immediately, I can hardly walk. It's like I remember walking when it was so painful I could hardly walk, and that was when I was on sugar and carbohydrates. When I eat them now, also I get pitting edema really bad, and if I'm on carbohydrates or sugar at all, my ankles swell up. I can, I don't know if your viewers know what that is, but you can push your finger into your shin bone and it sinks in, like it buries your whole finger. There's so much fluid built up in your whatever, in that tissue there. And that's definitely something that, and it's not painful, it's just weird, but I think it does make my foot not work right. All that fluid gets in there and starts locking up and just feels stiff and doesn't work right. So I think the stiffness and the inflammation in my body is just way better. I wish I could say it's absolutely cured me. I don't think in my case, I think I need an orthopedic surgeon or a miracle for these knees. As I told you, I mean, they're definitely bone on bone. It's just, there's nothing in there, but all the cartilage is gone, which that's a pad that, and there's a lot of nerves in there that really, sometimes I jump, involuntarily jump because it hurts so bad. But yes, it has helped that. One of the biggest things is, man, I got to be 60 and I started taking naps and I was tired. And my whole life, I used to always have coffee time in the middle of the day because the carbs. I was running out of fuel or whatever, or just out of whack. And so I would eat a candy bar and drink some coffee, and then I'd probably almost feel more tired. Just, it was such a joke. And man, I wish I would have known about it back in the day. But anyways, I noticed I started napping more in my 60s. And as soon as I started the keto, I just was amazed. I went, I don't need a nap, and I don't need my afternoon coffee. And obviously I'm not going to eat a candy bar. That's poison. And, but I don't even need it. I feel great. And so no more naps, amazing clarity and concentration. I think, you know, as well as anybody, how it just ups your mental clarity. And I don't know, you feel like, wow, I'm really awake, which is nice. Because I was saying, man, I'm getting old, you know, feel like the old guy with the sweater. I'm cold. Where's my soup? You know, and now I'm, you know, well, right now I'm actually at the motocross track in my rig. I practiced yesterday, and I'm just going to stay here and practice Saturday and Sunday. I couldn't have done that a couple of years ago. I would have been so tired after the first day. I would have gone home, been sore, you know, forever. That's another thing I found out. Essential amino acids at this age, those really help the soreness as well. So I'm kind of learning what works, what doesn't work. And it's been pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, let's go into that a little bit, because a lot of people, you know, they have some sort of different takes on how they do a carnivore diet, and I think, you know, we have to find out what actually works. And you know, like I've said many times, I'm dogmatic about finding what works for you. I think that's where I should lie. So tell me about, what do you eat? What does a day look like for you now? And then I guess, what would a typical stuntman, stuntwoman diet look like normally? I mean, I know there's long shifts, long days on the set or whatever. And I know there's a food services. I don't know if you guys get to participate in that. What would be a normal sort of stuntman diet typically back in the day versus, and what are you eating specifically these days?
Okay. So there's two stuntmen. One, these younger guys with the vegan and the super healthy and the little piece of chicken and all that kind of stuff, and the kale salads and that, and they'll eat that stuff. Then there's the regular people, and it is the worst place you can be for someone who, like the old me, because there is every candy in the world, every nut, everything you shouldn't be eating, donuts and muffins and, you know, healthy brand muffins that aren't, and coffee machines, espresso machines, and, you know, it's called craft services. That's what's there all the time. You know, when you're on the set, that's always there. When you first get to the set in the morning, there's breakfast, which is actually pretty nice, but then there's a lot of things that I thought were healthy that turned out to be not healthy that are there. And so you can have any kind of breakfast you ever wanted. You just tell the cooks, this is what I want. Or you can just eat what they have set out buffet style, which is really good. And you can actually eat healthy if you want, but, you know, if you don't know and you're ignorant like I was, you just eat the garbage and pancakes and, you know, that. So then all day long, you're kind of going to, we always go, hey, let's go to Crafty. And that was like, you know, Matt, I'm bored, you know, sometimes there's a lot of downtime where you're waiting, especially when they're filming. They might be filming dialogue and you're sitting there all day long, just waiting to do this stunt. And so you're constantly going to Crafty and, you know, eating this candy and that. And again, if I would have known then, I could have ate perfect keto or perfect carnivore every day. They'll cook you whatever you want. That was another thing too, that I used to always like to eat breakfast, and before my events, especially, I would always make sure I fueled up. You know, I ride bicycles as well, and I don't know, have you ever bonked rowing, or do you bicycle at all?
I don't bicycle, and no, I haven't bonked rowing. I mean, I typically haven't done long distance, although I'm recently. I'm still, you know, I put in an hour and 20 minutes the other day with no problem, without even any food at all. And so
Yeah.
at a pretty high level. So Thus far, no, I have not experienced bonking, I mean, but I've never been a marathon runner, and I'm very well familiar with that concept.
Okay, yeah. So anybody who hasn't, let me tell you, bonking is one of the worst things. It's when you run out of fuel and you need to fuel up. And I'm telling you, you could be on a bicycle and you just lay down on the highway and you don't even care if a car runs you over. That's how out of it you are. You're completely gone. And I've noticed I went and rode 2 days in a row without eating. And once I clicked into a fat burner instead of a carb burner, you don't bonk. You're bonk proof. I don't know. You could probably bonk at some point, but I've never found that point yet because I've gone 2 days fasted and rode 50 milers, which I could never do. I couldn't do 50 miles without eating carbohydrates back in the day, or I would have made, about the 50th mile, I would have bonked. So that's an amazing thing to be bonk proof, and you just run on fat. So your body's just got plenty of fat on it. I mean, I've heard even the skinniest person has 50,000 calories of fat ready at any time. And I don't know if that's true, but sounds good. So anyways, back to the food on the set. I pretty much told you what is available. You could do perfect, but unfortunately, that's I guess why you're doing this program you're doing is to enlighten people that, hey, there's a healthier way. Don't believe, the hype, the standard American diet is not healthy, and there's a healthier way. And if I would have known that then, I could have eaten so healthy on the set, but unfortunately didn't. Now I do.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about day to day. What does a day to day diet look like? I mean, how many times a day are you eating? What are you eating? Is it strict meat only, or are you adding some things in? Let's kind of get through that.
Okay. I still have some bad habits here and there, but pretty much my refrigerator is filled with ribeye steaks. And I'll have bacon and eggs in there, which I eat here and there, but mostly just ribeye steaks. I do have some hamburger. And that's really, I don't have any problem just eating the ribeyes. Twice a day I usually eat. Sometimes I'll eat once a day, not usually. I try not to eat before 12, and I usually work out in the morning. Before that, I like fasted workout. And then I try and wait till 2, but if I'm hungry, I'll just eat at 12. And I usually stop eating around 8 at night. I try and stop around 6, but I really try and cut it off for sure by 8. And I do have some nuts, although I noticed I didn't re-up the last time. It's funny. I have gone from keto and having everything, that I could get away with, to getting rid of all that stuff slowly. I've just gotten rid of, I used to eat berries and heavy cream. I still have heavy cream in my coffee, but I've just noticed I've slowly gotten rid of everything. I used to eat vegetables with the keto, got rid of that. So really, like, all I have to eat in my rig right now is steaks, hamburger. I've pretty much got rid of the cheese too, although this trip I did buy some cheese, but it's no big deal. I don't really have to have it. Don't even know if I really should have it. I'm still kind of seeing if it makes any difference. Haven't really felt a difference eating cheese, because with my inflammation, if there's anything I can do to help that inflammation die down, I want to do that. Matter of fact, I think it might be time to check out the heavy cream and see if I get rid of that, if there's any change. So yesterday I practiced on my motocross bike, and which is intense physical training. It's people can't believe it, but you're just riding a motorcycle. They have no idea. I've raced bicycles, I've done rowing machines, I've done everything pretty much, and I'm telling you, this is one of the most brutal exercises. You're getting every part of your body. And so I did that, and then I think it was around 12:30 in the afternoon, I had a steak, and then I didn't eat anything more. And I had a couple Italian sausages for dinner, which is kind of rare, but I did that. Usually I'll just have another ribeye and that'll be it. Every once in a while, I treat myself to, I take some coconut oil, pour it in a plastic bag, put a couple raw cacao scoops in there, a little monk fruit sweetener, and mix it all up and put a little bit of peanut butter in there. This peanut butter just has salt, and I'll mix that all up together in a bag and throw it in the freezer. And I'll just break off a piece. And that's another thing I'm kind of thinking I want to get rid of. I haven't decided for sure, but I might just try not. Actually, I'll go for long periods without that, and then sometimes I just feel in the mood for that. Just something, I do enjoy that. Although I notice I don't enjoy that type of food as much anymore. Man, I used to just, my mouth would water thinking about a brownie or candy bar or ice cream, and I find that it's lost its pull. It's lost its power. So that's nice. So that's pretty much what I eat. Every once in a while, I'll go to a friend's house, and they'll say, "Yeah, I got your favorite ice cream." I go, "Oh man." And now I'm almost to the point where it's like, you know what, sorry, I'm just not going to put that in my body. And then sometimes I do, and I pay the price. Immediately, I feel my knees. As soon as I get up I can't hardly walk. It's like, oh man, why did I eat that? So that's getting less and less. And who knows, it might be cut out at this point. I haven't had it in a while.
Yeah, so now, I mean, because it sounds like you're still doing a little bit of work. Is that correct? Am I hearing that correct? Because you're still doing motocross stuff. You're still doing a little bit of stunt type work.
No, I haven't done any stunt work for a while. I've just been kind of semi-retired now. My brother has a movie coming up here, and maybe we'll see. I was going to work on his last one, and there was a car chase scene that would have been perfect for me. And he calls and goes, "Hey, they wrote the scene out." And I go, "Oh, well, so I live on my residuals, and, I'm 65, so it's about time to retire anyways. And if I can get away with just doing my motocross and doing the other work I do, I actually go and speak at drug rehab centers, and that actually is the most fulfilling work I do, because, I can relate to those people, and they can relate to me, and they'll listen, and I have a way that does help them get out of it. So that's the most fulfilling work I do. I try and help people with the carnivore, and it's funny. It's almost like helping people spiritually. They either are very interested or they don't even want to hear you. So I know you get a lot of that. And then you get the combative people. So.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, as someone who has, dealt with drug addiction, in a big way, and there are a lot of people that struggle with different addictions, and whether it's drugs, alcohol, pornography, gambling, sex, food, sugar. How have you noticed like a change because what I've seen in this community and even some of the other low carb communities is that sort of getting the garbage food out of the diet seems to make that addiction for these other issues, that we talked about, easier. And a lot of people that were once alcoholics find that they go on a carnivore diet or similar to a carnivore diet, and that sort of desire to drink sort of wanes and goes away. And many people are able to completely come off that. So do you find that, because I know, once you're an addict, you're always sort of, you have to battle that. I know alcoholics talk about they're still alcoholics, but they just don't drink. Do you find a difference in your mindset or your physiology now that you're on a different diet?
Absolutely. There's two things I think come into play there. The diet, first of all, as I told you when I went to Starbucks, it was like, wow, I'm not addicted anymore. This is awesome. It wasn't like I was fighting it. It was like, yeah, I don't even care about that stuff. So that was amazing. That really got my attention. I went, wow, that's pretty amazing. The other thing is the discipline. And I gotta thank you, because sometimes I hear you say certain things. I go, man, he is very disciplined. I need a little more discipline on this. This is serious stuff. This is my health, and this is especially at my age. So, but I have noticed that the fasting, the the discipline of fasting, it actually helps in all aspects of your life. So there's, when you take control over food instead of letting food control you, something happens in all aspects of your life, where you're just more disciplined and you're empowered. This diet empowers you. It at least it has me, and I've heard all the testimonies of other people. It has empowered, you know, the ability to. I love the fact that I can say, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit hungry. What time is it? It's 11:30 a.m. I don't really need to eat. I'll wait till later. Next thing I know, it's like 2 or 3, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll eat now. Well, why don't I wait till 5 and just have dinner? Man, you can't do that on carbs. That would be torture and so uncomfortable. If you're eating carbs and sugar, you got to feed that machine. And it's kind of like I talked to you about the bicycles. Man, if you didn't, you were going to be in really bad shape. Where now I can go on a bike ride and I don't even have to think about it, you know? So yeah, definitely. I will say for my drug addiction, I don't struggle with that, and I haven't, because that was more of a supernatural thing. I mean, I know for sure that, you know, some people, they don't believe in God or whatever, but I know for sure that when I got right with God in that jail, he took that desire for that addiction out of me. So I don't sit there every day going, okay, I'm not going to use today, which I know some people who do that method. And to me, it's almost like eating carbs and saying, okay, today I'm going to diet, you know, and you're like miserable every day fighting this addiction, where all you got to do is get rid of the carbs and you're set free. And so I've noticed it spiritually, with my spiritual walk. I've noticed it with this carnivore walk. Best thing. I mean, I just, when I talk to people who are addicted to food and they won't listen, it's so disheartening, because it's like, man, if you knew the power you would have over that addiction, it's available. You know, just try it. I tell people, you can do anything for 30 days, you know. I know a guy that struggles with addiction. I go, you can do your addiction for 30 days when you know it's wrong and it's horrible for you. Why don't you just try all in? And he'll kind of do it, and then he'll drink his juices and eat his fruit. And I'm like, you're just, you know, sabotaging yourself. So, but yeah, definitely very empowering, and it does affect, I think, every part of my life. Struggling with anything. I don't struggle with too much anymore. Maybe drinking too much coffee. It's not really a struggle. It makes me feel bad if I drink too much, so it's pretty easy. You just don't drink it.
You'd kind of touched on or alluded to the fact that you might do some fasting. Can you talk a little bit about that? And were you doing that on a ketogenic diet as well, or is this something new for you, or do you do that at all?
Okay. The first time I ever heard about fasting was, I mean, I probably heard about it, didn't ever think about it, but a guy in jail, when I first started when I first got in trouble, he goes, you know, we were reading the Bible and we were talking about God, and he goes, hey, let's fast. I go, what do you mean? He goes, we're not going to eat. And it's biblical. I go, okay, well, what are we going to do? He goes, we're going to go 2 days. I go, what? All right, I'll do it. And so, you know, boy, in jail, you're really looking forward to eating. That's like, you know, the highlight of the day. Anyways, I went all in, and at the end of the day, I see these guys eating their dinner. You know, we had missed breakfast, we had missed lunch, and now these guys are eating dinner. I go, what are you guys doing? Because there were 2 guys I was going to do this with. And they go, we decided we were just going to do 1 day. I go, you're not even doing a day. They go, well, no, sundown. I don't know, you guys. And so I said, I'm going for the full 2 days, which I did. And it was all right. It was, you know, it was a little uncomfortable, and actually probably really uncomfortable. And that was 15 years ago. But yeah. But I started doing it more and more, and I did some longer fasts. one time I actually fasted, and I thought, I should probably eat. I think it was about 5 days into it, and all I was having was water. And I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I woke up with my head in the toilet. I just went, I just knocked out, and had a big lump on my head. So I said, okay, when you think you should eat, you should eat. Don't push it. So I learned. I did a couple 7-day fasts, and it's water only. I think I would start with coffee and then quit. Just that coffee helps you kind of get over the hump in the beginning, and then after that I would quit. The last long fast I went on, I did. There was one on YouTube, and a bunch of people did a 5-day fast, and I did that. And some of them just said, "Don't do a dry fast," which I'd never done. Do a dry fast the first 2 days, which I did, and it was really easy. I was surprised, and I'm not a huge water drinker. I have to drink it, but I almost force it. So that was kind of interesting. I found out that your body makes water, when you don't drink it. You makes really pure water out of it. I don't know if it comes to your fat cells or something like that, but that was pretty interesting. And since then, that was about a year ago, I've done some just short fasts, maybe 1 day or 2 day. I'm not really into those long fasts anymore. If I get called to it, I'll do it. Sometimes, who knows, it could be a spiritual reason I might do it for a longer fast. But I think what I do, I don't know what that is. I don't keep track of the hours, but it seems about like 18 hours of fasting and 6 hours of eating, somewhere in that range, maybe 16 and 8, works well for me. And the weight has stayed off. Now, if I start eating badly, as I said, I can put weight on quickly, and it's not good weight. And so I'll definitely stay away from that. And it's kind of cool though, because even if you do screw up, man, you can quickly just get right back. It's not painful, it's easy, and it feels right. The other way, you're doing something wrong. When you eat some junk food, and I've stayed with my brother for a while, and I was eating a bunch of crap, and it affected me. And I could tell I might have put on 10 pounds, and get home, start eating right again, and it's just gone, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is one nice thing is, you kind of, once you figure it out, it tends to work pretty reliably. Does your brother, again, that sounds like you've got a better relationship with him now. I don't know how much time you spend with him, if he's sort of paid attention to your dietary strategies and changes and noticed the weight loss. But have you been able to, I know you talked about you've been able to convert some people to at least thinking about doing the carnivore diet. And, today's May 1st, we have our Meaty Made Challenge. We do it pretty much every month. We have some sort of challenge because people like these 30-day, 31-day things that gets them involved. And then, we just started offering some fasting material on the website for those people. But does your brother have any impact on him? Does he think you're nuts with the diet, or what's the story with that?
He's kind of tried it, but as I told my other friend, I go, this is an all-in thing. Matter of fact, it might hurt you if you kind of go half and half, because if you're eating carbs and, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So I haven't got him to go full in. He's got a little bit of cholesterol and heart issues, and he's put on weight. It's funny, he was my skinny little brother. He was always so thin. And he actually went to the Olympic Training Center as a young guy to race bicycles. And man, he came back. I've never seen anybody so fit. But now, sitting on the movie sets, eating crafty, he's put on a lot of pounds. And so, he says, I want to do this. And so I haven't gotten him to go all in. And I think he's a little nervous because of the propaganda we've heard about meat and fat, and he, is concerned that, maybe for him, it's, could damage his heart. And I keep saying, hey, that other stuff you're eating, there's 1,500 or thousands of studies that show that stuff will definitely give you heart disease. But there's really none, I don't think, that are legit that show meat will cause heart disease. So, I keep sharing that stuff with him, and hopefully he goes all in and tries it, because he'll be amazed just like I was, and say, wow, this is the real deal. But I think he's just cautious. His wife and he are both very cautious about his health. And again, I think it's bad information, but I can't, we'll see. But I will say I had 2 friends in North Carolina. I was back in North Carolina for a couple of years, and these guys I grew up with them racing stock cars back in the day, and they both moved to North Carolina, and they both have put on 60, 70 pounds. I couldn't believe the one kid. He was just a skinny kid when the last time I saw him. He's like 260, 270. I went, wow, Daryl. And so I told them, and immediately I could tell. You can tell, man. They look you right in the eye, and you can tell they're hungry for the info. And he went all in. And I haven't checked with him in a couple months, but I think at last count, he was down 65 pounds. And the other guy lost about 50. And so those are my two success stories. And I do have a friend. He was one of the greatest motocross riders ever lived. And he has become obese with diabetes. And I've been trying to talk to him, and he just doesn't receive it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm telling you, it'll work. You just got to do it. And so that's my story at this point. Maybe I'll have more success down the line, but I try and bring people up spiritually, and some people listen, some people won't. I try and bring them up physically with this carnivore diet, and some people listen, some people don't. And so I just do my best, and I feel good about it. So that's the most important thing, is if your heart's for helping people, you're going to feel well, feel good.
Well, that's been some good stuff. Thank you very much for sharing your story, and I'm sure that will inspire a lot of people, considering where you came from and where you are now. And it's great to see someone who is, in later in life, and there's so many of us that are here, we discover, only after our health declines, and we kind of decide, hey, it's time to make a change. And sometimes it's nice having those sort of sore joints that kind of remind us when we get off track. It's kind of a very, very rapid reminder to stay on the program. Some people need that, a lot of people when they're younger, they just don't care. And then they do care 10, 15 years later. And so hopefully some of those people avoid going down that route in the first place, which I wish I would have done, but we all have to learn our lessons. But anyway, appreciate it, Will. Guys, I gotta end the meeting here. I've got to go do another meeting as per usual. Remember, Meaty May, you guys get the word out. Let's keep doing what we're doing, guys. I think we're making some good progress here and affecting the world in a good way. And again, another day to have an opportunity to improve things. So thanks, Will. Have
awesome.
a good day, man.
Thank you. See ya.
All right, guys. Okay, bye, everybody. Bye-bye, guys.